keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs. These are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real, and I'm super pumped for tonight's episode.
Hell yeah, episode 22 is going to be a big one.
Oh, hell yeah. So, tonight, we've got Nick Bottini from Cold Blooded Earth. How are you doing tonight, man?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm super pumped to have you on. I love all the projects that you're working with, and just seeing you grow and evolve has always just been like super inspiring to me, because you've gone through all these different phases, but you just have that passion and love for Bloods and Short Tails, and that's been one of my loves since I was really young. So seeing you work with them and do amazing things with them has just been amazing, just like super cool to me.
Oh, thanks, guys. And, you know, the feeling's right back at you. And, you know, now that you guys are both at Nerd, it's cool because I've known both of you guys a long time. So,
yeah, for sure, man.
You know, it's awesome to see you guys grow in the hobby as well.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate that.
For the people who don't know you, have you been a lifelong reptile guy? Well, where'd you get your roots in reptiles?
You know, just the same story like everyone. Caught my first snake when I was young. You know, just something that I think's probably in our DNA. And, you know, and then from there it was, you know, just followed my passion. Like, my parents were super supportive of all of that, you know, when I was growing up, and really, you know, pushed my interests. So, you know, I didn't have to bring snakes in or hide stuff or anything. It was just like, you know, they were all about it. And then I worked in the zoo biz for about 8 years at a zoo here in South Carolina. And then about 3 years ago, I decided to go out and try and make this a full-time job, and, you know, so far so good, still doing it. So
that's where it's
Hell
at,
yeah,
man.
That's awesome.
That's where it's at. So going from the zoo sector, like the kind of like, you know, doing the zoo thing, to doing your own thing and kind of working on the sales and kind of the reptile hobby industry, where do you feel like not like where do you feel that you found more fulfilled, but do you find it as fulfilling doing your own thing as it was working at the zoo?
Absolutely. It's great. You know, I can totally focus in on what I'm doing and my animals and everything. And, you know, like a lot of guys out there, for a long time I was doing both. You know, it was school and then college and then having a job, and on the side was the snakes. And as my collection grew and grew and grew, you know, that gets to be a lot. And and being able to really just dive in to my stuff 24/7 has been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the dream for a lot of people, is to, you know, quit their day job and just work with the animals that they absolutely love. And to be able to do that is just like, you know, it's considered the dream.
Yeah, 100%.
It really is.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, I'm very fortunate, and, you know, my wife's super supportive, and she still works at the zoo, so you know, one of us has to have a real job.
True. So true. So I was going to ask, what drew you to Bloods and Short Tails? Out of all the snakes you could possibly own, what was Bloods and Short Tails that caught your attention?
You know, it just the size, the head shape, the body structure. I really liked all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I had worked with a lot of stuff, you know, in the public sector and the private sector, you know, with my own collection, and then at the zoo and everything. You know, I've worked with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, when I started working with Bloods, it was just, they're just so different, you know. Their metabolisms are different. They're just, and they're beautiful. I mean, you really can't find another snake like that, you know, in my opinion. You know, whether it's Borneos, Sumatrans, or Reds, they're really neat, you know. And I think they have that they fill that niche of having a big snake without, you know, having an actual big snake.
Yeah,
because I've, you know, worked with that stuff too, and that's, you know, that can be a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the Bloods and Short Tails give you that feel of a big snake, because they fill up your whole hand when you're holding them, but you don't need a 10-foot long or 8-foot long cage to have one. So it's just like, it's the perfect kind of mid-sized snake. You know, they're not too giant, but they're big enough where, you know, when you're feeling them, you know, when you're holding them, it's not like you're holding like an earthworm or anything. It's not like you're holding like a little garter snake or something. It's something substantial, but it's not something that you know is going to absolutely outgrow your room or your house. It's something that you can manage to have as a pet. Even for someone who doesn't have a collection, someone who just has one, you know, a 4 foot by 2 foot cage isn't like absorbently big to take up in your house.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think it's like perfect for a lot of people. And once they can get over that little, you know, how to handle them properly, once they get that under their belt, they're fine, man. They're good.
Yeah, you know, they're vocal, and I think that puts people off a little bit at first because, you know, you're not used to hearing, you know, them exhale like that, you know, because they have that really big lung and you know, supporting the whole body up off the ground because they're, you know, there's nothing arboreal about a blood python. You know?
But
so you just have to approach them that way, you know,
Yeah.
and recognize that's kind of, you know, you have to make them comfortable because once they get uncomfortable, they'll let you know.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Then they become a meat missile.
Oh, that's a gross term.
Somebody asked me once how I would describe a cantankerous blood python, and I was like, meat missile.
Yeah.
100%. A meat missile.
That's fair. That's fair, I guess.
It is. And, you know, like, the Borneos bring that to a whole different level. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like a mean blood, meat missile's a perfect descriptor for it. But like a Borneo, when they flail and twist and they death roll, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's crazy because, like, I've had a lot of, like, horror stories from people of, like, blood pythons that are really mean and nasty. And, like, some of the most, like, unruly blood pythons and short tails that I've had, even after a little bit of handling, they'll usually calm down pretty well. And then some of the ones that I've just got in the last, like, 2 years, I don't know what it is because they're hitting that size, like, 2.5, almost 3 foot long, where I'm like, okay, you're going to start to mellow down now. And they are like, nope, no, I'm not. Like, what the hell's your problem? I don't ever hurt you. I'm super nice to you. I'm very gentle whenever I handle you. And they still, like, just buck and throw themselves. And I'm like, I guess there are those exceptions to the rule where they just don't mellow down. Whatever it is in their lineage, they just, like, are not cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember watching your talk, Rob, when you did about handling bloods and getting a pair of gloves that feel more like skin and just confident handhold. I thought that was perfect, you know, to get people, you know, over that hump, and usually they will, you know, they usually. But again, like you said, that there's going to be exceptions, and I think that's in any animal, though. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that the more that we are selectively breeding bloods and short tails, the better that they're becoming, because most of my bloods and short tails that I've raised are awesome. Like, they are great animals. You can just pick them up, handle them. As long as you're not flipping them on their back like a ball python, they're super chill. They don't care what you do. I can bring them to programs and everything. They're just great. And then I think as we are focused on breeding for different traits, one of the things that I try and do, and I know a couple other people like Care have tried to do, is breed for temperament as well. So you might take something that's got a little bit better temperament, even if it's not as great color or not exactly what you're looking for in pattern, but breed that to something that might be a little more temperamental, so you're hoping that influences the offspring.
Yeah, you know, I think all that stuff is has a genetic component to it, you know, feeding response, all that stuff. So when you're going to do your pairings, it's definitely something that you should consider, you know, not putting your two most aggressive snakes, even if they're the prettiest, together necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, now all my plans are ruined.
Yeah. and then you gotta
I hope it wasn't for me.
No.
And then you got to incubate them all at like 90 degrees, so when they come out, they're like really small and angry, and then they stay angry their whole lives.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That clutch of Borneos you hatched recently, I mean, those were some of the biggest Borneos I'd ever seen. They were just beautiful.
Really? I see it like most of the Borneos that I've hatched have been kind of maybe a little bit smaller than that, but I'm looking at them like, they're like normal sized Borneos, because most of the stuff that I've been breeding recently has been like blood pythons for nerds. So I'm like, they got big babies and whatever. So I was like, they're like decent sized Borneos, forgetting like, most of them are a little bit smaller than those guys, and they actually been doing really well. I only have one holdout this year out of my 40 some odd Borneos that I've been holding on to, that because half of them were split clutch with Dan Magano for 2 clutches. So I ended up with like, I think 30 something babies that I've got right now, and I only have one holdout that's not eating for me yet. And I'm like, okay, try it on, regular bedding that I've got. I usually do paper or paper towels when they first are born. I think, so a little bit of moss, and now I switched them over to moss, and then now I'm gonna try a smaller enclosure. It's just like the one holdout, and then everybody else is just like slam food after the second week. They were just like ready to go.
That's great. I mean, you can't be too upset with that. Just having one, that's good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
if it comes down to it, I'll assist feed it or do what I got to do to try for it. But I'm kind of at the point where if it doesn't want to eat, you're going to be the one that just your genetics are not going to continue on. That's just how it is. Because
like we were just saying, and have you tried any bird anything yet?
Not yet. I've been just trying to do mice and rats. I do have a bunch of frozen button quail chicks that I can use that are like small enough that it would be perfect size prey for them. But I just have always just been trying the mice and rats.
Yeah. Sometimes, I don't know what it is about, birds, but stubborn snakes seem to love them.
Yeah.
100%.
Something about feathers.
And it's funny, a bunch of my Borneos that I had raised on rats and mice, one time I had some extra quail, and I was like, I'll just offer it to them. I'll see what happens. And the ones that I had raised on rats, I offered them that, and as soon as they struck it and constrict it, whatever the feathers felt like in their mouth, they immediately unwrapped and flung it across the cage. And I was like, oh man, they were not happy with that at all.
I'm not eating that.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, well, that was an experiment, and now I know they don't like quail, I guess.
Oh man.
Got to do it with drama too,
Oh yeah, it's a short tail thing. They got to be talkative. They got to have a little drama going. Give you the side eye.
Oof.
Oh, that's funny.
So
see, that should be like the quote for your "Don't Get Bit" reptiles.
Yeah.
Do it with drama.
Do it with drama.
Yeah, we're on to something there.
Yeah, right.
There we go. Oh, so for your collection of bloods and short tails right now, what is one project that you're just super in love with? I'm so pumped for the pollen stuff that you're working with and the flowerback stuff, dude. That is my favorite Brongers, my morph, and I've been waiting for the last 10 years to see people do something with it because it's been largely VPI's project. And then I'm in the Deepong lovers group for Indonesia. Is all the blood python and short tail keepers over there. And some of those guys have flowerbacks, and they're just like, oh, it's a cool striped blood python. And I'm like, it's a flowerback. Oh. But in the U.S.
that's a project that's right up there. It's got, that's got to be right up there. I think, there's so much to do with this stuff. And, sometimes it's just it's overwhelming. I mean, you look at it, and, from what we have, it's not a ton, but there's just so many ways you can take things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The flower project's right up there. I love those snakes. They're really, really cool. They're really pretty. And, I hit one that has matrix in it, an albino, and it's really wild. It's a really cool snake. So I think, anything just to start playing with some of this stuff, I think that with the albino ivory batik came out really cool,
Mm-hmm.
I never would have expected that, until Juan hit the white lightning. I just, taking an ivory, it's you just have no idea where this stuff is going to go.
Yeah, and
so,
it's when a lot of people look at ivory-type morphs where it, erases a lot of that pattern. They're like, well, that's a dead end. You can't do anything cool with that.
Yeah.
And then when they put that batik into it, you're like, wow, that thing's freaking awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah. It completely changes the whole look of the snake, and I think you could even add stripe in there and get some results from that. So it's, some of this stuff, it's endless, really, and I like putting stripe into into goldeneye. I'm excited to do some stuff with that, super stripes and I don't even know some days where to take some of this stuff, and there's different lines of teen egg, and the teen egg stuff is I think it has a lot of potential. The guys that are really diving into it now and trying to make the colors pop and stuff, I think that's excellent because it really needs that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate in particular with bloods, but I mean kind of across the board, bloods and short tails in general, is the amount of dedication to really focusing on either a specific gene or a specific trait that they're seeing within a project and being like, I want to see as far as I can take this. Like, I like this about this animal, and I want to see how far I can push this project. Because so many of the other, and I think that's happening a little more so now as they're becoming more popular.
Yes.
That niche is certainly increasing for them. So it's interesting to see, because so many other species, it's just, I just want to make the coolest morph. Be it ball pythons or corn snakes or whatever. It's like, I just need to make the coolest morph. And very few people in those sections of the industry are actually focusing on line breeding. And like those that do, like thinking retics like Shane Costello, like really zeroing in on like sunfires and like making the coolest sunfires you possibly could find. Like then everybody's like, oh my God, they're so amazing. And it's like, well, I mean, all he did was take the time to focus in on that project. So I feel like the blood and short tail niche is totally zeroed in on that, of like, I want to see this project as far as I can because I absolutely love this thing about it. And I appreciate that greatly, because there's so many different things we can do morph wise. But to find a little individual trait in something and really see that through, I mean, we think about all the different lines of bloods that we've seen, like the tomato bomb and cherry bomb stuff,
Red
the
X and all that stuff,
like that kind of stuff, and seeing like what to the untrained eye might be a very subtle difference, but to the person that's really invested in bloods or short tails, like, holy shit, I gotta get into this. It's so cool. I seriously appreciate about this niche of the industry.
I think that you don't have to follow anybody really. You can just do your own thing, and that's what makes it so cool. It's like you were saying, you find a trait that you like and you just run with it, and nobody else will be doing exactly the same thing, and that's what makes it so cool.
Hell yeah.
And it's like when ball pythons first started to become popular, people were kind of doing that, and it's like, Kevin had his spiders and his pastels, and then Pete had the piebalds, and a lot of people like were just starting to, and just focusing on those projects that they had started with. It's like that, but with bloods and short tails now. I mean, there are more people working with like teen eggs. There are more people working with ivories and Bottiques and stuff like that. But even within those, there are people who are going for, I want the reddest Bottique that you can make. I want to see striped Bottiques. I want to see, Jason Chapman's got his super striped Bottiques, and the Bottique matrix.
Oh, they're awesome,
and
too.
They're just like crazy looking. And there's room for that, where a lot of people, I mean, like, if you think back in the day with ball pythons, they had like the Graziani line pastel, where it was like, it looks a little bit different like this. And then you had Kevin's lemon line of pastel, which looked different, like completely different than the Graziani line pastel. And it's just like there's room for that to happen right now for people. So for people who are interested in bloods and short tails, they can work on a project and make really cool stuff that's unique to them. And
exactly.
I think
you don't have to be chasing it. You know, you can just do your thing that you like. And that's one thing that people will ask me. It's like, well, which one would you pick out of this? It's like, it doesn't matter.
It has nothing to do with me.
Nothing. If you like it, have at it. And because you're the one that's got to take care of it. So, if you approach it that way, long term, you'll be successful in whatever you're doing. Whether you just have a few, or you want to make a business out of it. I think that there's room for all of it, and the people dialing in and focusing on certain things, and and blood pythons really showed, like you were saying with Shane, it's like they really show that dedication.
Yes.
Over generations of your projects, and I think it makes a big difference.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, because like if you think about like in Bronger's mind with the red blood pythons, like you think about like Kevin Martyr's line stuff, and like that immediately, for if you know who Kevin Martyr is, you immediately think of that like rich red tones, nice yellows, and all this sort of stuff. And he put that time in to selectively choose animals for those projects, and he ran with it. And did some really cool stuff. And same thing with Carol. That she, just cherry picked some of the things that she liked to see in these animals, and just worked with that and ran with it.
Yeah. So I was just saying that you take something like that Kara's produced, and then you start breeding morphs into that, and it's a win-win. Your whole clutch is unbelievable. You know, whether it's the morph of, you know, a golden eye or a batik, or, you know, you end up with really, really nice red normals. I mean, that's the mindset going forward that I think that makes a big difference. You know, it's not just breeding two animals together just because.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And when it's unique to me to look at that, because in a ball python clutch, if you don't hit on your morph, your normals are going to be, you know, $30, $20. They're not worth a whole lot to the average person. But since they put so much selective breeding into blood pythons for color and that sort of stuff, you can be breeding for red or batiks, and your normals are still going to be a very sought after, desired animal, because they're still a beautiful, like a very naturally beautiful snake.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's, to me, that's a huge win-win.
Oh 100%. Yeah, 100%.
I just can't wait to see where the next 5 or 10 years take, you know, not just the red bloods, but also the Borneo shorttails and Sumatran shorttails, because, I mean, there's not as many morphs of the Sumatran shorttails, but there's still people who are, like, just trying to breed the blackest Sumatran shorttails with these pumpkin orange eyes, or, you know, people who are working with stuff that's got more white highlights in the sides or things like that. I can't wait for someone to take some black Sumatran shorttails and then selectively breed for white markings on them, because those
would be unbelievable.
They're going to be insane. They're going to be the coolest looking snakes.
Hell yeah.
It's just someone needs to take the time and do it. That's all that it is. And there's room for people to do that right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes it so exciting and so much fun. And, you know, every year is different, and you know, you don't have to approach it and like, well, I'll never catch up to so and so, or I'll you know, I need all this, because you don't need to do that, you know.
Yeah, you can literally just build your army by yourself.
From the ground up.
You know, every once in a while adding some new blood, but you can really just create your own entire army.
Yeah, look at the
exactly.
babies that
you know,
I
a good foundation, and you're off to go. You know.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the babies I produced this year, and I'm like, I want to keep that and that and that. I see things I like in that.
The hardest thing.
Yeah,
selling them is the hardest part, because I'm like, I don't really want to let go of any of these things. They're amazing. Even some of the normals, they've got these, you know, unique traits to them that I see, and I'm like, if someone took that and focused on that, they could make some really amazing Borneos with that.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, so they change so much too. So, you know, until you can really get that eye for what you want to keep, you know, early on I sold stuff, and I was just like 2 years later, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just
you know, because they're one of those snakes that they come out of the egg, and that's the worst that they look.
Yep. Yep.
You know, takes them forever to shed and get some size to them, and then, you know, all of a sudden, then, you know, they'll shed, and it's like, whoa.
Yep.
Just takes you off guard.
You see that customer photo, just like,
look
at how it's progressed, and then you're in the back fucking crying.
Oh, it's so bad.
God, why?
For how much?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I sold one of my marble Borneos that I produced this year, and it was one that I was like, I'm gonna price it a little high because it's like a super nice one. I don't really want to sell it, but if someone wants to buy it and they're like investing in getting a nice marble Borneo, this will be a good one for them. And I posted up, and it sold like 2 days later, and I was like, I should have put it for more.
Yeah,
$10,000.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it in a year and a half, and it's just gonna be smoking on fire, and I'm gonna be like, well, Rob, you messed that one up.
Yeah.
Yeah, just job. You know, I always tell myself I can make more. It'll be okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the same pair again this year, so that hopefully I'll produce another one that looks like it. But you know, you never know.
Yeah, you don't know. You just don't know. And the Borneo thing is crazy. I mean, you really don't know.
Yeah.
You know, the polygenics of that stuff, and you know, all the background of everything, and you know how Borneos work. Borneos are fun to hatch.
Yes. Yeah.
100%.
When I was going through babies that were hatching out this year, almost every single one that came out, I was like, what? This one doesn't look anything like any of the rest of the ones that are already out. What is going on here?
Yeah. Dude,
exactly.
I remember at Carpet Fest last year, the week before I moved up here, Matt had just hatched out a clutch of like ocelot things, and none of them looked anywhere close to any of them. And I was like, how do you pick which one to sell? Because I'm staring at this and I'm like,
Hold back.
I'd
hold
keep
back,
that
hold back,
and
hold back.
that and that and that, and then I'm like looking at my wallet and I'm like, oh, thank God I left the American Express at home.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've done that to me too, motherfucker.
Yeah, you've got some all right stuff over there.
Yeah. Oh man,
dude, it's I just keep saying it. I'm super excited to see what the next 5 or 10 years hold with the different projects. Like even my own projects, I'm just super excited to see what directions I can take them in from the different stuff that I've hatched out this year and the stuff that I'm hoping to hatch out this upcoming season. I know I'm not trying to go crazy, but I want to do a couple clutches this upcoming season to see which direction I can kind of take things in. Because one of the projects I was super pumped about this year was my skunk line female, who's like het ultra. So she's like super light, but has these really dark markings down the side. And I bred her to an ultra, like a blue ultra granite male this year. And
Nice.
to see what happens when you take the black trait and that ultra trait and bring it to the light side. And then I've been raising up this male for the last year and a half that has got that similar really black dark trait with like some neck speckling. And so I want to put her to that male to see what happens when you take it the other direction, where it's still using the same traits in that original female, but it's going in two opposite directions to see where the variation is in those babies. Because some of the babies I hatched out this year, even from breeding her to an ultra, had super nice black heavy marks down the sides. Mm-hmm. So I'm just imagining when I put her back to something that's got that black trait, that it's just going to be even crazier, but then the lightness from the ultra is going to make a little bit better white highlights on them. But I'm just like super pumped to see what happens with that.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Oh, I hope so.
Hell yeah.
What do you have any projects for this upcoming season that you're like can't wait for?
You know, I think I'm going to dive into the slackline stuff a bit more.
Yes.
Hell
yes.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
You know, because this season I did a level 4. You know, so it's the top. You know, of what the slacklines break down as. So, to just a normal with no striping in its background or anything, and all the babies came out as level 2s. So that was really good to know because it hadn't been done yet. You know, a 4 to just a normal with no striping in it at all. So everything came out level 2. So that, in my mind, helped me clarify what I was going to do going forward. So I think I'm gonna plug in the slackline into some stuff this year and dive into that a little bit more, because that's a really cool project.
Yeah, 100%.
You get a lot of different looks within, you know, the whole spectrum of things as far as that stripe goes. You know, some of them look like chain link, and you know, then you get real clean striping, and there's, again, you can just take that, you know, 5 different ways if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is probably one of the other blood projects I want to get into, is the slackline stuff. I remember seeing some of the first ones, and I was like, so that, let's talk about that really fast.
Yeah, they're really cool, and you know, I think that's going to be really fun. And I like the genetic stripe stuff anyway, and and it changes a lot of things, you know, and it has a lot of potential, I think. So I'll probably do some of that, and you know, I don't know. Breeding season's only like 2 months away, so I better get it figured out here.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
It's crazy to think about. Yeah, time has flown by.
Flying. So it should be good. You know, like you said, I'm looking forward to the next few years and pushing projects forward and doing some more stuff and really just diving into it, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sheesh. Is there a project that you're either with Bloods or Borneos that you're not working with right now that you want to integrate into what you've got?
That's a good question. You know, the wrought iron stuff is really cool. You know, I think that's got some legs. I even think the albino Borneo project has a lot of potential, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially doing stuff like Rob was talking about just a minute ago, you know, with integrating black and light colors, and I think you could really do some cool stuff with that project.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I've been watching that, and the first ones I saw, I was like, I don't really know. And then seeing the ones that Steve just hatched out this year, I was like, okay, I've got a vision of where this can go
Yeah.
and how you could make this like a really, really amazing. Like they're very pretty. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not pretty right now, but I see in 5 or 8 years a project that you could do with that to make it like really
Bam.
pop and really just make
Oh,
that
yeah.
like jaw drop on them. And I really want to get into that. I'm very seriously considering getting into that.
Yeah, I think that, that could be huge. I really do. The Borneo color palette, even though it's browns, quote unquote, I think that, that's going to be really cool to see some of that stuff get really dialed in and pushed to the next level. I really do. I think the potential's there for sure.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
So do you feel like where you're at in the country, do you feel like you've got, I don't know how to say it, like, do you feel like the weather there is amicable for how you run your reptile room, or do you wish it was a little bit cooler, longer for part of the year, or how do you feel about that?
I think it's perfect. I'm in South Carolina, so like right in central South Carolina. So we get cold, a couple times a year. We get a little dusting of snow. So yeah, for me it's perfect. I pair earlier than I did when I lived in the Northeast.
Yeah.
I'll pair sometime in October usually because that's where we start to get like some tropical systems come in and the barometric pressure drops. So yeah, I've been real happy with that. It took me a little while to get used to, and then when I built my building, my snakes had to adjust to that too because we're in a room, a spare bedroom in the house like most people's collections are.
Right.
But anytime you move adults, even if it's down the road, it's going to take a little while for them to adjust to new surroundings. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Overall, I think that I'm really happy with it, and I have a big window in my building because I think the light cycle plays a big factor in conditioning them for breeding season.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something that often goes untalked about with a lot of different snake species, just because the propensity is to keep snakes in racks for the most part. But photo periods
Huge.
being a massive aspect, because I think about like a lot of lizard species, like I think about when I was young breeding bearded dragons, one of like the first things that you would see popping up on those the informational sheets were photo periods changing even just a couple of hours.
Right.
Shorter made a huge difference in their clocks kind of ticking. And it's interesting that we don't necessarily document that as much with snakes, and certainly could be said that because most of the species that are more commonly kept are more nocturnal. Yeah, it's interesting, especially with even colubrid breeders, that are working with more diurnal or crepuscular species, that we don't really talk more about photo periods. So that's
right.
That's interesting. Having the window, I think, is definitely
Huge.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's it's one of the big. I think anything that triggers like a big change like that, like even the barometric pressure drop, it's big.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And light cycles that's a big one. I mean, temperature is one thing, but you're not with breeding bloods or a lot of python species, you're not like they're not extreme, but the light cycle is.
Right.
So I do think it plays a role in it. And it's worked out great so far. So
Yeah. That's very cool.
So you spend a lot of time working in the zoo sector, the private sector, and what would you say was some of your favorite animals to work with when you were working in the zoos?
I when I was at the zoo, my section was broken up into desert and then tropical, and so I got to work with a lot of venomous stuff, and was real hands-on with venomous things, king cobras and mambas and stuff like that. Mangs are, Mangshan vipers are right up there. They were incredible to work with. And bushmasters, bushmasters are they're such a different snake. It's like they almost know that they're that badass. And so they were really fun to work with. I enjoyed all that stuff. Nothing I would bring home, but
you don't have any giant venomous snakes in your house?
Those are meat missiles that are really gonna suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was fun at the zoo and everything, and just being able to to branch out into more of the venomous side of things. It was something I never worked with, you know, at home or in other people's collections or anything. So that was really cool.
Yeah, dude. Mangshans are like such a unique viper. Like when I saw them in pictures, I was like, "Oh, that's a cool viper, I guess." I mean, they're kind of green and like a little bit of red pattern, I guess, to them. It's okay. And then when we went to Florida in February, we got to see some Mangshans in person, and I was like, "Okay, I get why they're cool now."
Yeah.
That's a big ass fucking viper.
Oh yeah, they're huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. Their heads are enormous.
Massive fucking heads, dude.
Yeah,
oh my
man.
gosh.
But you know, the Bushmasters, those just like those and Bothrops, I don't know what it is about them, but they just make me super uncomfortable. Like I would never own one. I can't. They're like springs, little pogo sticks with these giant fangs, and it's just, you know, when a Bushmaster gets big, that thing can move. It can really move.
Yeah, they're just and they're you know, they're big, they're confident. You know, their scalation is really cool. It's almost, you know, like a beaded scale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're just really neat. You know, the egg-laying viper thing is cool.
Yes.
I really enjoyed working with them. They were fun, and you know, they hit like a ton of bricks. So when you're feeding them, it's just like, you know, 2/3 of their body up off the ground. It's awesome.
Oh boy,
I'm sweating just thinking about it.
Yeah,
So.
right. Sheesh.
And it's hard to describe to people if you haven't seen venomous snakes eat, like any viper strike. It is the fastest thing you've ever witnessed in your life.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to describe to people without you actually seeing it in person. Because it's one thing to watch it on a video, like, oh, that was pretty quick. But when you see it in person, you're like, there's no way you could dodge that. There's no way.
Especially the beaded stuff, you know.
Yep.
I mean, it's like they'll sit there and they'll do their little eye movements, kind of like blood pythons do, but they're faster.
Yeah, way faster.
Yeah.
Way faster.
It's insane for sure. Oof. I'm having flashbacks to when I had my eyelash viper.
Yep.
Like seeing it as like this little tiny baby and how fast it could strike, and obviously, I mean, it's like 5 inches long, so it's not a crazy long striking distance, but to see that thing go from like knocked the fuck out to immediately on its prey, like in a split second, was like, fuck, I can never get close to this thing.
Nope.
Oh no.
Yeah, some of the first times that I watched gaboon vipers eat in person, I was just like, well, people dangerously underestimate these snakes.
Yeah.
Like,
hugely. Yeah, they do.
Hugely. They're like, oh, it's a slug. It's like, no. When it needs to, it can move something serious.
The ultimate meat missile.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that same body type and everything that I love in bloods. You know, gaboons and rhinos and puff adders. I mean, they're awesome.
Oh,
awesome
hell yeah,
snakes.
dude.
See, I love rhinos a lot. Gaboons never had that big of a draw to me. Like, I don't know why. I love the rhinos. The contrast on them really catches me. But I feel like I like things with lots and lots of contrast on it. And, like, the gaboons are more cryptic, so I feel like they don't have as much of that contrast. And same thing with the puff adders. Like, there's some puff adder locales that have a lot of contrast, but as a whole, they usually don't have a lot of contrast. And that's the stuff that I find interesting, just, like, lots and lots of contrast.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Ethiopian mountain vipers are really cool snakes. Yeah, it's a cool snake. And the guy that hatched that albino gaboon, I mean, that thing
Oh my god.
Dude.
He's got 3 of them. They are absolutely wild. And watching the video. Yeah, watching the video of like the little babies and then seeing them at like 2 foot long, I was like, oh man, those are going to be the coolest looking snakes when they're full grown.
Yes.
They're awesome.
Hell yeah.
One of them literally looks like you took like melted pink and yellow starburst and like painted it with the starburst. That's how bright colored it is. It's crazy.
Exactly.
Yep.
Crazy.
I remember the first time I saw those pictures, I was like, so that.
I thought it was fake. I was like, get out of here. And then I looked, and they're like, oh no, it's not just one, it's 3 of them. And I was like, holy crap, that's awesome.
Yeah, those are cool.
That is. So, would you ever consider keeping venomous snakes on your in your collection or no?
You know, I don't want to say no.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. You know, you can't go into those cages when you're tired or you had a long day, or you know, you really have to be on 100% of the time.
Yes.
And you know, so that's the thing. It's the responsibility aspect of it. because you have to do it the right way. I mean, at this point, with the way that, you know, they're coming down on us with laws and everything, I mean, there's just no room for error.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%.
Because, you know, 100 people could do it the right way, and if you get tagged, you're going to make the news. It's just going to happen.
Yep.
And you know, so that's tough, you know, because they are such cool snakes, and there's a lot of people doing really cool stuff with them, and that are really, really good at, you know, what they do. But it's just, you know, you have to be so careful for so many reasons, not just, you know, your own safety, but there's a billion other things that go with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would love to keep venomous, but in New England you cannot privately own venomous snakes, so I'm gonna have to make a move if I'm gonna do that. And then one of the big things I've noticed is that people who have venomous collections either have a completely venomous collection, or they're people like you who are just like, I will not keep venomous. You need to be too focused on it, and if you're getting complacent and you've got a half venomous collection, you open up the wrong bin because you moved a snake or something, and you've just had a momentary lapse. That could be a real bad day. And
exactly.
that's the thing that like makes me hesitate to get into them if I were to move, is that, you know, I have mostly non-venomous stuff, but I would love to get some like copperheads. I love Trans-Pecos copperheads and like the broad-banded copperheads. I love those. I would love to get some rhino vipers, some wagglers, pit vipers. But you have to be 100% on. You have to know exactly what enclosure you're going into, what that animal's temperament is like, and there's no room for error, very minimal room for error when it comes to that sort of thing. And
it's true. You know, I mean, and there's no excuse either. You know, you can't just be like, oh, I was having a bad day. It's like, that's not.
Yeah, you can tell that to the ER, people who are helping you out. Sorry, it was a bad day.
Yeah.
Hope you got the anti-venom.
You know, local news shows up on your front door, and then you got all kinds of problems.
Yeah, so and then it's man with 100 snakes in his basement. It gets bit.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. You look like a wacko, and you know, it's tough because they're really cool and they're fun to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel very similarly to that. Like I really enjoy copperheads and different species of rattlesnakes, and it's like, man, I would love to get into that, but to know exactly that, like, you need to be on.
Yeah.
You know, at every second, you need to be on point to deal with that. It's like, okay, one day.
Yeah, maybe
one day,
not today.
Maybe, but
I'm too stressed right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, and I think it's one of those things that, you know, you have to self-police as well. It's like, you know, you gotta do the right enclosures, and you have to do the locks, and you have to do all that stuff.
And,
you know,
mark
right?
on
Whether
them,
it's
species, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah, you know, whether it's the law or not, I think that, you know, that the responsibility lands squarely on your head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And another thing is, like, I think it's Joe Pittman came out with Bite Protocol book.
Yeah, which you gotta have.
Everyone's got to have that. I think if you have venomous snakes, you should be required to have that in your room.
Yeah.
For whatever species you keep. Maybe not required, but you should do that because it's the responsible thing to do, to know what happens if an accident happens, if you end up getting bit. You know, you don't want to be caught off guard.
Right, and and you know, the person that's coming to help you needs, you know, they're not going to be experienced with, you know, African cobra species. You know,
that a cottonmouth?
Yeah.
Right.
Is that
a
viper? Hooded up cobra? Is that a viper? Is that the one that did that? Yeah. Oh boy.
Terrible.
Yeah. Poison control. Here you go.
They're gonna be like, you got bit by a what now?
Yeah. Exactly. Say that. A Wrangler viper? Aren't those jeans? What is that? What?
So, do you go to any of the reptile expos before the COVID happened? Before the COVID?
The COVID.
Before the COVID happened, do you go to a lot of the expos down there, or is that something that you're like, I'm not interested in that sort of stuff?
I did, you know, years and years and years ago, I did a couple of the Repticons here, and you know, the interest for the snakes wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just like, I'll just, you know.
Do better online.
I'll just stay home and throw some pictures up on my website, and you know, but I like going to hang out, you know, with some of the people that I've known for a long time and stuff. So, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, when I was doing them, it was you know, everybody walking by the table would be like, "Oh, look at those ball pythons or boas." It's like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I do want to get out to Tinley at some point and hang with you guys and stuff.
Yes.
Hell yeah,
yes. We need to hang out at Tinley. That's all it's to it.
Yep.
It's got to happen.
Yep.
Exactly.
See, I've already booked my hotel for Tinley this year. If it doesn't happen, I'm going to be bummed. Very bummed. Very, very, very bummed. But I understand, and then it better happen 2021. That's all I'm saying, because I'm going to go to March and October.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen this year, 2021 will be a blast.
It's going to be crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be so fun.
Hell yeah. I really hope it happens this fall.
I just need a little vacation. I just need like 5 days out of the building.
Dude. Yeah. Those days are sacred.
Yeah. So, Nick, do you keep other stuff outside of your Bloods and Short Tails, or are you just laser focused on those?
Just, at this point, I'm just, that's all I do is the blood and short tails. Like I said, I've kept a bunch of different species and, Timors, olives, blackheads, all kinds of stuff. And, it's hard to, when I was looking at this to do full time, if you have like 1.1 of a bunch of different stuff, if your breeding doesn't go well, you're kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know there are guys that do it, Ryan Young and other guys that have diverse collections that do it and do it really well. But for me, it was, if I'm going to dedicate this amount of space to something, I want more than one shot at it. And bloods have always kept my interest,
Mm-hmm.
I don't walk in there and I'm like, oh, I'm bored. It's
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I picked them, because if you keep something that you like, you never get bored. And for me, that was the blood and short tail python. It's endless. There's so much to do, and there's just a ton of ways you can take projects and different things you can do. And basically they are 3 different species. So, not basically, they are. And so I do have, technically 3 different species.
Right.
But yeah, once I decided that, I was going to try this, it was like, I got to just dial in, stay focused, and try and do it that way.
Yeah. That's, man, I don't know if I could ever do it.
Just
no, it's hard, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever could. I've talked about it many episodes in the past where I'm like, I like too much shit. I get geeked out by too much shit to only work with a couple of different species.
I could do, like, if they were like, look, you can only keep 2, it'd be my Borneos and my Scrubs. Mm-hmm. That'd be it. And I could see myself getting rid of everything else and just keep my Borneos and my Scrubs. I'd be
and that's
bummed.
always been you, though,
Yeah. That's been me forever. It's just like and you know what? I waited for the Scrubs because I was like, I don't ever want to be put in a situation where I have to dump them because of a living situation or anything like that. So I waited a long time to get into scrub pythons, and I've only had Scrubs for like five or 6 years now. So it's not like a crazy amount of time that I've been into scrub pythons, but I've kept scrub pythons, but I've been into scrub pythons for fucking 15 years, probably more than 15 years, where I've just been like reading and watching the guys who are doing it, watching David Means, trying to focus on how he's doing things, and watching some of the other people who have come and go, and like Yasser's been working with scrubs back in the day from Spitfire Reptiles, and just seeing what they're doing and trying to incorporate that into how I do things with my scrub pythons, because I have the utmost respect for those snakes, and I waited to get into them, and if it came down to it, it's just been Borneos and Scrubs. That would be it for me, and I could be totally happy doing that. I could see myself being totally happy doing that.
Exactly. And there's a ton of cool stuff out there, and it's definitely, sometimes it's hard to be like, oh, maybe I should just get into that a little bit, but then then it's just like, well, I got all these holdbacks, and
that's me this year.
Yep.
I look at my Borneos, I'm like, well, I was planning on keeping back like 4 snakes, but now I got like 15 that I'm keeping back, and oh no.
Exactly. Yeah. And you want to raise them up, you want to see how they're going to turn out.
Yes.
So it's it's that kind of thing that just keeps my interest,
Yeah.
you know, totally dialed in. So, you know, I mean, fortunately, you know, I've been able to work with a lot of other stuff too, though. So I think that's helped as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you satisfied the cravings elsewhere.
Exactly.
That's I still can't do it, man. I still can't.
Yeah, you got all kinds of stuff over there when I pop into your little live streams and stuff.
Dude, I'm like, yeah,
You got a
check
little bit
these
of
out.
everything.
And then like, hey, I just got these because I like them and I worked with them 10 years ago and wanted to work with them again. And shit, now I've got 125 snakes
Oh my
in
God.
like 20 different species. So help me.
Yeah.
Help me. Somebody. I'm grateful that now my focus has been on colubrids, things that I
Not
can
things that
keep
are
in
giant?
a very small area and not feel bad about myself. Yeah, I didn't go hog wild with retics or berms. It's like I
Yeah.
can do this cage stack and survive.
Yeah.
And be happy with that. I don't need more. But I'll take another 12 corn snakes, please. Thank you very much.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Uh,
That's the thing. Working at Nerd has definitely given me the opportunity to work with a lot of different things and see what I like and what I don't like. And that's why, like, I've got one retic, and it's a super dwarf, because I was like, you know what? Big snakes are cool and everything, but when you got to clean that thing, when you got to shovel that
man.
poop out, oh,
Forget
man,
it. Forget it.
I'm not into it. When you need to
Yeah.
take a full body workout, you need to get a Planet Fitness membership just to take your pet snake out. I'm all set with that. I don't need any of that.
Dude, your snake is the Planet Fitness membership.
Yeah, seriously.
You don't need the gym. It is the gym.
Yeah, it's a full body workout to take it out. But that's let me know, you know, I don't need to get a bunch of retics. I don't need to get a
Yeah.
water monitor. I don't need to get a boa. I don't need to work with Burmese pythons. I
Right.
work with them at work, and then when I go home, I don't gotta look at them. I don't
Yep.
have to.
Yeah,
I get to work with the
exactly.
stuff that I like. And I've always been a really particular person, so I kind of like what I like, and that's it. So it's very rare that I've gotten into something just because other people are into it. If I like it, I get it. If I don't like it, I do not get into it. And I think that that's saved me a lot of heartbreak, because I feel like a lot of people like get a lot of things just to test out what they like, because they're like, I don't know, I'll try whatever, and they end up getting out of things, or they end up with stuff that they're not like super crazy about. But I've always been like, I'm gonna get this thing because I really like it, and then I'm happy with what I got. So
Yep.
Exactly. And that's the best way to approach any of this. Is, you know, again, if it interests you and you like it, you know, have
forget
at
what
it.
anyone
Go
else
for
thinks.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go for
exactly.
it. I think that's, especially now, because you see, like, everywhere on social media, it's blown out to become a ball python breeder.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But, you know, and you've got to be working with the next coolest project. And,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's ever changed with ball pythons. Like, if you want to be, quote, relevant, you have to be ahead of the curve. So you always
Yeah.
have to be willing to drop the money on the next project and the next project. And I remember years ago being kind of like caught up in the same hype, like trying to, you know, thinking little old me was like jumping on the next project only to find out like, oh, that was done 2 years ago. That's cool. You know,
Yeah.
fucking great.
Right.
You know,
The
but
world's third.
yeah, world's third. Exactly. Yeah, Jesus. You know, but now, even though I have a quite a diverse collection, I've been able to like really zero in on, okay, well, I like this species as a whole, but I like this project within the species, and
Yeah.
I can dial that in, and that's certainly been what's saved me. You know, the multiple heartbreak of just not having enough space. But
Yeah.
you know, I think that you're starting to see that happen even more so now, where people are like, well, I like this.
Yes.
Be it they're working with ball pythons or whatever, you know, like what's the guy's name? I'm forgetting the breeder's name. But JD Constriction, who does like all the azanthic stuff, like he's like followed the azanthic project like
Yes.
all the way through, but is creating badass azanthics. And like, I remember visiting his table at Tinley, and I think there was like one snake that was not a visual azanthic on the table, and like it immediately caught your attention just because it wasn't black and white. You know,
Right.
but to have that and be able to be that dedicated to a project, I seriously appreciate that aspect. You know, because it's like, even in my music career, like students would come to me and be like, I want to get a new trumpet. What do you recommend? And it's like, okay, well, you need to get something that you sound good on, but also you need to get something that when you take it out of the case, you're not going to be like, ugh.
Yeah.
You know, like you're going to want to take that thing out to practice. You know, so I feel the same way with snakes. Is like when you go into that enclosure, you have to be okay with that animal in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just be like, oh, great, I got to deal with this thing again.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
I mean, unless it's a raging asshole, then you can have that moment of like, oh, great, this one again.
Here we go.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
But there has to be that element of like, if you produce it and it's, you know, for ball python breeders, if there's a normal ball python in that tub, you still got to be okay with it, man. Like, can you still open that and be like, that's, you know, it's still a cool snake.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have that passion to where you know, the morph doesn't matter, the price tag doesn't matter. You still have to open that and be like, I still love that animal.
Yes.
You know,
yeah, exactly. You have to love doing this.
Exactly. And I think we're kind of reaching that point, I feel, where there's a larger, more publicized group of people who are following that. Like, I'm in this because I like this, and I've dedicated myself to this, and I'm okay with everything that I make because it's what I want.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
And I seriously appreciate that is happening within the community, and grateful that I've been able to figure that out for myself.
Yes.
Also. Otherwise, I'd have way too many things. And I'd have to be doing this podcast while cleaning all of those animals because I wouldn't have any free time ever.
The people who are cleaning and listening to this podcast right now.
Yes, exactly. That's fine. Please clean and listen to this all you want. But it would not be cool if I had to clean and do the podcast.
Yeah.
Because every 5 seconds you'd hear pshh of a water bowl.
The water going.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. All right, so we're winding down the time for this episode. But before we say our goodbyes, we ask all of our guests one question. So, Nick, that question for you is, what in the realm of reptile, be it something in your own collection or something that you've seen scrolling the interwebs, because that's all we ever get to do in the world of COVID right now, has you geeked out and excited about reptiles?
Oh man, good question. You know, I like seeing some of the newer people get into blood pythons that share the same passion that, you know, we have for them. Yeah, I've met some people locally that are getting into them, and that can share in what we see in them. And I, you know, not the fly, you know, by night guys that come and go. You know, the guys that have a plan and know what they like and really dive into it. And I think that, you know, the industry as a whole is seeing a lot of that, like you said, Jeremy, and that's exciting for me because that's, you know, that passion is still there, and because I still have it, you know, from when I was a little kid. I still get just as excited. So, you know, I think that being able to share that with people and be part of that is it's really cool.
Hell yeah,
dude.
So, if people want to find out more about you and what you're doing, where's the best place for them to go to do that?
I have a website. It's coldbloodedearth.com, and then you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Cold-Blooded Earth.
Bam.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you coming on this evening. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Hell yeah.
Thank you very much, man. Hope you have a nice night.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Hell
yeah, dude. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.